2018 bull run, I lost everything. I had 2 big failures in business and 1 big failure in investment.
What was the worst it ever got for you financially?
Going from $2 million down to 80 or 40 or 50 is pretty much nothing.
Luke Belmar grew a personal brand that impacted millions across the world without posting a single video himself.
How the did you do?
We've been able to build one of the strongest distribution super teams in the entire world. We post 500 to 700 videos every single day. Every single month we do anywhere from 250 to 400 million views.
How much do you spend on it?
Probably about $90,000 to $110,000 a month. We live in an attention economy. Today, attention, especially in short form, is extremely undervalued. It's about building a personal brand, and then it's about retaining that energy by building a community. There's 3 ingredients to building a personal brand.
Where do you see most people go wrong?
Most people settle for average. They settle for bad decisions. They settle for self-sabotage. And a lot of it comes from not listening to God. The Bible teaches you all the truth that you need to know about the world. Once you're born, you get to choose the game you want to play. You get to choose the character you want to become. You get to curate your environment. First thing that you want to do is
Before we get into this epic interview, I have one quick ask. Well, we've had the privilege of reaching millions of people on the show. The data shows that almost 80% of you guys who watch the show aren't yet subscribed. So if you could do me one quick favor and click that subscribe button right now, it would mean the absolute world to us. Because when you hit subscribe, not only are you allowing us to grow the show, get bigger guests, ask better questions, but you're allowing us to honor our commitment to do everything in our power to help you take your life, your business, your health, your relationships to that next level. And with no further ado, enjoy the show.
All right, so we made it. Las Vegas. My man, Luke Belmar. Thanks for coming on the show.
how are you, brother?
Good, bro. Glad we finally made this happen.
Lovely. Good to be here.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So before we get into this pod, bro, I want to ask, a lot of people know your backstory. You went from, being a kid born in Argentina, having the success that you've scaled and grown. But then later you transitioned to kind of sharing your message with the masses, and you built one of the biggest personal brands on the internet. So I want to touch base on your story, but I also just want to, commend you on how you did that and ask you, how the fuck did you do that? How did you build one of the biggest brands?
I'm guessing just because you built a big brand yourself, a lot of the people that listen to your content as well as mine are probably interested in building a personal brand of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
We live in an attention economy. Oftentimes I say that you have to trade assets, so you buy low, sell high. Today, attention, especially in short form and things of this nature, is extremely undervalued. So you sell dollars and you buy influence. Now, there's 2 types of personal brands. You can have your macro personal brand, which is something like mine that hits the masses, or you can have a micro niche brand. Let's say you are in sales and you specifically just want to talk to people that are in sales, or you want to find recruiters, or you want to find a new sales position or a new job, or a new network. You want to be able to put out content or make yourself available online, because what that creates is leverage. Today, the game is all about leverage. At the top, at least what I've been able to experience, money isn't everything. A lot of rich people come to me and say, hey, I would like to make a video with you because of your audience and your reach, which I can pay infinite amount of money to and never get access because you have a community. So it's about building a personal brand, and then it's about retaining that energy by building a community. So where do people congregate? Do you have a Telegram group? Do you have a Discord server? It doesn't have to be paid, but where do people interact? So people get to connect with you, but then they have to connect with each other, and that's how you build a network.
How did you start your personal brand to begin with? Your first couple of videos?
Yeah, so my first couple of videos, I started when I was doing e-com, 2016, 2017. That's how I started making money. And I started getting results. So I started posting my screenshots and giving some basic advice. I opened up a community back in the day called E-com Society in 2019, which became one of the most popular e-commerce.
And that was it Facebook?
That was a Facebook group back in the day when it was old school. And that's how I got my first access to interacting with entrepreneurs online, which is why I say a niche personal brand also works. I got access to incredible people in the Facebook ad space, media buying space. I got access to PayPal reps because you have correct, because you have 20,000 followers, but you know that the 20,000 people that are following you are actually interested in the topic that you have to talk about, what you have to say, the things that interest you, and you kind of find those commonalities. You can attend physical spaces. You can go to things in person, but at the click of a button, you can get access to a Zoom call. You can get access to a live stream. You can get access to a video.
That's high leverage. Yeah.
It's incredible leverage. You need to be utilizing it. And
Yeah.
the internet, in some way, shape, or form, not always, because there's certain parts of the internet that don't translate into the real world. There are, some sort of benefit to having an online brand that affect you in the real world. So if you have a micro brand, it doesn't matter if you're in sales, doesn't matter if you're in marketing, you could be a CEO, you could just be an assistant, and you could be a group of 3, 4, 5, maybe 20 people that share some sort of commonality. That is going to give you leverage. Leverage is going to give you access, and access is important because you get access to information, you get access to networks,
How
you
do
get access
people-
to deal flow and opportunity.
How do people switch from kind of working in the trenches to then gaining leverage? Like, because it makes sense when you have momentum, and so leverage compounds. But most people never get the leverage going in the first place, or due to a limited degree. Do you know what I mean?
You have to be present. You have to be present. You have to be interesting, and you have to have something to say. So if you have no results, well, you have nothing to talk about. If you don't have any interesting way in order to showcase your results, then people are not going to pay attention. There's 3 ingredients to building a personal brand. There's intensity, quantity, and longevity. It's how much content you post,
Okay.
the frequency at which you post it, once a day, twice a day, and for how long do you post it. So how long do you go distance? 3, 4, 8, 10, 20 years. How frequent do you do it? And what's the quality and the substance of that unit of content? So most people create low quality content. They don't distribute it enough. And you're competing with another million pieces of content. My team and I, we've been able to build one of the strongest distribution super teams in the entire world. We post 500 to 700 videos every single day. Every single month, we do anywhere from 250 to 400 million views.
How did you start scaling that? Like going back, like
So
what was
it
your
all
way
comes,
of thinking about it?
the first, it all comes from Facebook, and it comes from my time when I was doing e-commerce.
Okay.
Remember when we talked about the idea of creators becoming like fatigued or saturated because they're always trying to make new content instead of focusing on strategies to distribute it? I said, I have these Facebook ads, these creatives that are doing well. They've proven to convert. Why am I going to go out there and create new ads? Let me leverage these ads. Let me actually go all in and spend a lot of money on these ads because these ads are winning creatives. People that know e-commerce know what I'm talking about. Once you find that winning creative, you scale it. You're not going to go out and test other creatives when you're catching momentum. You're just going to run with that. And you're going to find variations of that and tune it and refine it. You're not going to go do a 180. You're going to keep that creative strategy. So let's say I have a piece of content that does really well, gets 1 million views, 2 million views. I'm going to double down on that piece of content. I'm not going to shy away from it. So I'll get that piece of content, and instead of going and creating 19 pieces of content that are similar, I'll distribute that piece of content 1,000 times.
How do you do it so high leverage though? Because I know you've only done like 10, 11 podcasts, and you've gotten so much reach. Most people can do, dozens, hundreds, thousands of podcasts and not get as much. So do you think, how much of it do you think is distribution versus actually the quality of the messaging? I'm sure it's both, but how do you recommend someone who's just starting or maybe just thinking about growing it should focus on?
That's a great question. So it's about a mixture of both. On one front, you're going to have to create content that is interesting and content that is evergreen. If you create something that is only relevant for the moment, you make a reaction video, or let's say you make a commentary video or the news, that in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months isn't going to hit the same because it's not on trend. So the content that you create needs to have a long shelf life. So the content that I make,
Timeless.
people can watch it in 4 or 5 years and still understand what I'm saying. And I do that on purpose because instead of focusing on making something that's going to be viral once, I want to be able to have something that's consistently gaining views. Lifetime value of views is more important than what I gain in one single week.
So how do you evaluate that? Do you have a team of people who help you with ideas? Do you draft them yourself in your notes, like on a practical level? How are those ideas organized?
Yeah, we use different platforms. One of them is Metricool. And what we do is we sync up all of our pages. We have thousands of pages, and we build our own grid and our own system that tracks the best performing content. And the best performing content then gets doubled down. That's the first strategy. The second strategy is we take written format. So we'll go out, write some tweets, post them. If they do extremely well, we'll just make a piece of content in correlation to that tweet. So it's really easy to put out a thought that is a concept. That concept then gets translated to video. Video then gets spread to distribution.
And then how did you start thinking about like the financial side of it? Because more and more you got to invest in growing the brand. Was it something you just did a little bit in the beginning of, or from the very beginning were you intentional about mass market distribution and creating clips, not just on your main channel? Because most people, for example, create content from their individual platform.
For sure.
Pioneers in scaling the brand figured out distribution on multi-platforms, which is now becoming more and more popular. But like, how much of it is playing that game versus actually, I guess, focusing on it and going, okay, I'm going to start spending more and more money on it? Does that make sense?
So it's all about the cost of the view. So if a view costs me a cent or 2 cents, or let's say 1,000 views cost me 2, 5, 10 cents, then all I have to determine is what it's going to cost me to get a return on that money. So hopefully you have some sort of product in the back end, sort of whether it's an affiliate product, whether you're on TikTok shops and you're running, your own little e-com business, whether you have an info product, a community, anything. It doesn't matter what you're selling. You should have something that allows a conversion to then be circulated back into more video content distribution.
Yeah.
So what I decided to do was I created a couple mechanisms to generate money, whether it's through affiliate programs, whether it's through my email list, or whether it's through my community or my investments. And what I would basically do is repurpose the money into more content distribution and into more content creation. So I've always been able to make money outside of my brand, whether it's my investments, whether it's my personal portfolios, whether it's my investment company, or whether it's my e-commerce companies. I've always been able to make money outside of my personal brand. So my personal brand is a business in and of itself.
How much do you spend on it, if you don't mind me asking?
Probably about $90,000 to $110,000 a month on distribution.
And how much did you start testing it at? Was it just iterative, like 5 grand, 10 grand?
You begin with one editor and you scale it and you begin creating content. You get comfortable. You create a library of content. That's the hardest.
How many clips a month are you guys posting?
I mean, 400 to 600 videos a day times 30.
And how many times can you clip, like for a 1-hour podcast, for example?
Infinite times, because I just have to color grade it. Remember, right? So let me take you back to the days of drop shipping. Back in the days of drop shipping, before it was easy to make creatives, you would usually find a creative in China and you would take that creative and you would run an ad for it. And then you would generate a sale, get the product shipped from China to somebody's house. However, a lot of people would begin to use the same creative, or somebody would steal your creative. Things of this nature would take place. So Facebook began creating bots that would censor duplicates. TikTok began doing the same exact thing when people distributed content. So all you had to do was shift the content in micro kind of perspective. So you would zoom at 1%, grayscale at 1%, maybe mirror it, add some text, create an original clip that creates kind of the illusion of newness, tricks the algorithm, and has the ability to continue going viral. And you can tweak that same piece of content, test different music.
Music.
Exactly. One piece of content that's a winner has the ability to be played out in different forms.
But that implies that the content itself is quality.
Correct. Or that it's viral. That it's viral. Whatever it is, anybody can have a viral piece of content. You just have to actually sit down and think about it. What would go viral? And you just sit down and test. And then you iterate. And then what you do is you take, Mr. Beast did it. He's doing the number one thing that you could do. Taking game shows and putting them on YouTube. He took a model that existed and he scaled what looks like what you would see in the 90s or early 2000s when you would watch TV at night, which is your late night game shows. That's what it feels like Mr. Beast is creating. He has the Beast games and things of this nature. So there's nothing new. It only evolves in shape.
Right.
And distribution is merely the ability to cast a signal of attention. It doesn't capture retention. Retention comes from long form content. And YouTube, back to your question, why is it that somebody can make 20,000 podcasts and never go viral, or have a long series, never hit? versus making a couple podcasts and it actually working and going viral, it has to do with the platform. YouTube is a search engine. People go on YouTube to look for things. And then once they engage with that, YouTube then recommends something. That's usually how people interact with YouTube. They actually go out and intentionally put forth the effort of finding a specific piece of content. Once they're rabbit trailing, that's a different story. However, on short form, whether it's TikTok, Instagram Reels, things of this nature, what you find is people just scroll and they're expecting content to be fed to them. So when you're getting content fed to you, that's the exact narrative that you're trying to put forth. Nobody has to search for your content. Your content just shows up. If people like your content, then they'll go search for your content in long form. Last podcast I did about 2 million plus views. I did some short pieces of content, distributed them extremely well on the internet, and that led to people searching for that long form video on YouTube.
What % would you say is distribution versus actual content creation? In terms
I would
of
say
effectiveness or efficiency for growth.
70% distribution.
Wow.
Everything is distribution. The record labels, they own the rappers, not because of any other reason beyond distribution. Distribution is the most important thing.
How did you learn
access
that? You learned that e-commerce initially?
I mean, at the end of the day,
Just testing?
at the end of the day, the way that you get eyes is by marketing. Content creation is a form of marketing. When you post a piece of content on the internet, that's an ad. It just doesn't say sponsored. But if you're paying for it as a creator, that means there's an advertisement cost. You can call it a cost of a video. You can say it's a cost of business, but it's an advertising cost because it costs money to get a view.
Right.
So if you have a product, hopefully it's beyond some sort of merch or some sort of sponsorship deal with a third-party brand. You want to have something that belongs to you. You want to be able to have your community working inside of your own ecosystem. And that's when you kind of are able to build a community. And those people stick around. So for example, from my Telegram, I have about 150,000 people. I'll send a voice memo, and within 2 to 3 minutes, 10,000 people listen to it. It would take me a lot of time to get in contact with all those people, and I would never be able to congregate all of those people on TikTok short form clips. What if those people want to, level up together, or they're in the same city and they want to connect?
So everything
want to
about
level up.
scale. You're thinking about everything from a scale perspective.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it from an ecosystem perspective. So I'm just a part of the equation of a community. If you're just the epicenter of a community, everything revolves around you. The moment you stop, everything dies. My job is not to be a content creator as much as I make videos on the internet. My job is to build a self-sustaining ecosystem that allows me to make money in a way that just extends beyond one specific vertical. Like if I stop creating content, I can't make any more money. It shouldn't be that way. Initially, it works, but eventually, if you stop making videos, you stop making money.
Right.
And that's not the case for me. I want to take the virality, I want to take the distribution, I want to take the content, and I want to generate and turn it into a community, not into dollars, into community. Community then builds product, builds software, builds things that now, because I have money I can invest in. And that's where my lifetime value comes. It doesn't come from $30 up front on a monthly subscription. It doesn't come from $100. That's why
term leverage. Yeah.
Correct. That's why you've never seen me sell a high ticket course. You've never seen me do things of this nature, because my lifetime value for my community is more than just, hey, buy my course. That's it. I think that the best people in your community will grow with you. I've seen it myself. I used to have a student by the name of Anthony, and he wanted to be a firefighter. And he called me once, this was back in the day, and said, hey, Luke, I'm thinking about going back to firefighting school and just finalizing my career, and started working on that because drop shipping for me right now is not working. After a couple coaching sessions, he made $87,000 on his first month. Now, I saw him go from making $87,000 in a month and over the next 4 years become a millionaire. That is a success story that is fully his. I take no credit beyond the fact that I get to experience his growth because he's part of my community. A lot of creators feel alienated. A lot of creators think that their community drains them. The community is there to take from them to entertain them. I'm not there to entertain people. I'm there to build community. So I'm just integrating into the network. When we do physical events, it's very noticeable, right? We just create an open space and people just hang out, and I'm just one more in the group.
How did you start collecting data from community? Or do you just think about, because one thing to create it, it's another thing to actually monetize it or actually have data on the back end. Do you guys collect emails, phone numbers? Like what's the long-term plan of how you absorb back end, the benefit of building a brand?
Yeah. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to be able to build leverage within your community. And that means that you have to build reputation, credibility, status, and expectation that there's a reason why people should be there.
Right.
People aren't going to be on 2 Discord servers at once. They're not going to be at 2 events at once. They're only going to be in one place with you or somewhere else. So what's the incentive for them to be there? What's the incentive for people to be part of Capital Club? What's the incentive of people being part of Ecom Society? What are the incentives behind this? It needs to be beyond, oh, I like Luke Belmar. If it's, I like Luke Belmar, well, what happens? Nothing. Luke Belmar has to show up every single day. So you need to build things that are good for your community, things that are relevant for your community. So you listen to your community.
You started Capital Club in 2019?
I started Capital Club and Ecom Society both in 2019. So Capital Club is designed for high-tier entrepreneurs. We get together in different places around the world. I spent the better part of 2013 and 2014 traveling to about 25, 26 countries, meeting with thousands of entrepreneurs inside of the Capital Club network and getting to understand what is it that they do, what they like, what they're into. A lot of them traveled all over the world to come and visit. We've hosted events in Taiwan, Singapore, Malaysia, Bali, Paris, London, the list goes on. And it's really cool because you find similarities. So you begin to listen to them and you begin to build things that are relevant to them. Hey, Lou, we would like to have a centralized event once a year in a specific location. Can you pull it off?
Right.
Okay, yeah, let's do it. So you are a steward of the community, and that's how you go from content creator to community curator, and somebody that's just managing experiences for your community. And ultimately, people stick around for a lot longer.
Hey guys, we'll get right back to this video in a sec, but first, I have a quick question for you. Given that the e-commerce industry is growing by the trillions year over year, have you ever dreamed of owning your own e-commerce business like many of the guests we've had on the show, but maybe you feel stuck on how to start? Well, if so, you're not alone. The truth is, starting and setting up your own online store can be incredibly time-consuming, complicated, and get expensive. Not to mention the hassle of researching top products and staying on top of market trends that make you money. Lucky for you, that's where today's sponsor, StoreBuild.ai, comes in. With StoreBuild.ai, you instantly get a free custom-built AI-driven store loaded with 20 winning products and a custom theme that can help you generate sales. All you need to do is head to StoreBuild.ai, enter your info, then simply sign up to Shopify for free, choose your store's look and feel, and voila! They'll send you your custom-built store ready to generate sales. The whole process is lightning fast. Whether you're just starting out or want to grow, StoreBuild.ai makes launching an online store easier than ever. So why wait? Visit StoreBuild.ai and in less than 5 minutes, you could have the e-commerce business you've always dreamed of. Thanks to StoreBuild.ai for sponsoring this video. And now let's get back to the show.
How many different hubs of communities do you have?
So I have 3 communities based off of what I like to talk about. So most people know me for crypto and e-com. These are the 2 things that I'm known for. They're the 2 things that I've made money on. They're the 2 things that I've been able to build a digital career on. So I have my e-commerce community, my crypto community. My crypto community, crypto, the space, high leverage, high risk, fast, pretty intense, pretty nerve-wracking. It's not for everybody, but I like it. So I have my ecosystem in my community there. I have a free community for people to be able to network and talk. I don't charge $1 for it. They have access to it. On the second front, I have Ecom Society, which is designed specifically for people that are in e-commerce. So if you're an e-commerce entrepreneur, there's a community specifically built for you where you get to interact with experts that are in the space. I'm not an e-commerce expert. I'm an expert of community building, community management. So I work with the best e-commerce entrepreneurs to create the best experience where experts and students can connect, work, and level up.
How do you find great talent? I feel like it's one thing to have great ideas. The biggest challenge is finding great people.
For sure.
And you have to build layers of people on people on people. How do you hire people at scale and manage all that?
Well, it comes from your network. So my flywheel is my experts come from Capital Club. So my experts for my crypto community and my experts for my e-commerce community come from Capital Club. Capital Club attracts the highest entrepreneurs in the world.
And for people who don't know, what's the business model of Capital Club backend?
So it's a very simple business model. The model is to build the largest entrepreneur network in the world. And all it is the repurposing of membership money to scale the business. So it's not for Luke to get rich. In fact, I haven't made a lot of money from it. It's basically designed to leverage community and put ecosystems together where instead of making money together or making money off of the high tier entrepreneurs, you can make money with them. So I've been able to invest into a lot of companies. I've been able to get access to a lot of opportunities because those events take place.
Yeah.
So instead of making
positioning because you own it. So yeah.
Instead of making $400,000 on an event, I get access to opportunities that over an extended period of time yield a lot more of a return. And the mindset changed because you need to stop thinking like a hustler when you have money, and you need to start thinking like somebody that is investing long-term. You invest long-term into people, you invest long-term into companies, you invest long-term into Bitcoin, you invest long-term into land. But going back to it, you invest long-term into people. So you mentioned the idea of like, how do you find good people? Well, you invest into them. When you find somebody that's quality in your network, how intentional are you to keep them around? How intentional are you to elevate with them? How
much of it is, I guess, nourished relationships that grow versus like cold new people that come in that have super skill sets?
Everybody comes in for my distribution. And my top of my funnel is my distribution. Every top tier entrepreneur that you've ever seen me interact with has seen me in short form content. Long form content, they might see me, but either by direct connection or by second connection, this person will be easily available for me to interact with or for them to interact with me. So distribution, when it comes to networking, is the most important thing because people know that you exist. People don't need to know everything about your life, everything about your business.
Right.
They just need to know that you're a person that is of status, that is respected, X, Y, and Z. You get access.
Yeah.
So then you congregate in a physical space, physical events with the best of the best, and then you create opportunities for people to collaborate. My friend Jordan Welch recently sold his company. He sold his company to AutoDS for a very, very big sum of money. And in this life-changing sum of money, that transaction took place at Capital Club, right? So at Capital Club, both of them attend. I introduce them. They broker the deal. And now one gets what he wants and the other one gets what he wants.
Yeah.
And all of that is possible when you create an ecosystem that allows for there to be value creation. And value creation comes from being intentional about giving back to your community. So once you have money, you no longer have to make money and keep it. You make money and you recycle it.
What amount of money did you feel like you had before you started really feeling like you had leverage to do that? Like, I guess, what amount of money did you feel free to like not have to monetize a brand to be able to be like, all right, I'm going to go all in on it and invest on it?
I would say it's all about your expenses. It's not really about how much you make. Because if you're not spending a lot of money, then what you're creating is peace of mind. And if you have 2-3 years of living expenses already stored and ready to roll, then you can operate with a little bit more confidence than you would if you have to make money in the next 2 weeks.
Right.
So the perspective changes depending on your situation.
Right.
If you need to make money really quickly, then the idea of brand building and networking, no, go make some money, go get a job, work online ideally if you can.
Exactly.
Once you have some sort of money, that creates, once again, money's leverage, influence is leverage. It creates leverage for you to be able to start a business, a side hustle, a resell business, something that gives you access to more capital. And then you create some sort of micro presence. If you don't like the internet, attend events, go to trade shows, join clubs.
What do you find is most community members' motive in joining a community?
Well, it depends on the community. That's why the community needs to be very focused and very purpose-driven and very intentionally noticeable what it's about.
But I mean, okay, like let's say one's about e-commerce, one is about a personal development group. One is about, some other niche. Like, obviously the subject matters, but is it the connections? Is it the relationships? Is it the
Belonging.
person?
The belonging. People want to belong somewhere. People want to fit in somewhere where they feel comfortable. For the longest part of your life, you were put into environments that you didn't enjoy. You were in school, you were in high school, your parents put you in situations that weren't enjoyable. As an adult, especially now access to the internet, you get to curate your environments. So people become really excited that they can interact and that they can associate with people that have similar interests to them. So people yearn for that connection. They yearn for that relationship. And today, more than ever, the value of people spending time together, hanging out, collaborating has a premium because people don't spend time together because they're always working, they're always focused, they're always clocked in. So when you create something in person or something intentional, people put a lot of value to it.
Why do you think most people struggle when it comes to building a community? Like, where do you see most people go wrong? Is it just that they don't have the capital to execute on it?
It's hard.
They prematurely try to?
It's hard because building a community means that you're always having to manage it. You're always having to grow it. It's like a garden. It never stops.
It requires systems.
Yeah. Apple's a community. Yeah, they build product. Yeah, they make a lot of money. But what was the first iPhone that you bought?
Probably the 5.
And you bought it every year, every 2 years, every 3 years.
Pretty nice shoe.
You're part of the Apple community, bro. You trust them.
Okay.
You trust them. You know when a product releases, do you?
Ish.
You know, you see it on the news. You know that the Apple Watch is out. You know that the VR headset's out.
Exactly.
The point is you're part of, whether by proxy or by their influence or their marketing, they have your attention and they have your trust. You're part of their community. You know that when you buy the iPhone, it's not going to let you down. You're part of their community. You're part of that level of kind of trust that builds Apple to be what it is.
What do you think? I know I asked you this earlier. What do you think makes it sticky? Like, because it's one thing to build a community, it's another thing to have them stay. People talk about churn, right? Communities can have churn, right? How do you keep it, or do you not even think about that? You just keep the momentum so hot that like churn is irrelevant. You just focus on.
People are always going to go somewhere else eventually.
Okay.
That only makes sense. Think about yourself. How much time do you actually consume one artist or one content creator, or how many times do you go to a specific restaurant? You have a limit. That happens all the time. So your goal is to be able to be always present and top of mind. Whether people see you directly or indirectly, you also have access to a new pool of people.
And what are the platforms you focus on distribution on?
So the best platforms for distribution today, in my opinion, are Instagram above TikTok. So Instagram, even though it's a little bit more intense when it comes to competition, it is also yielding, in my opinion, a better quality audience. On TikTok, even though it's easier to gain views, you also get a younger audience. So if you're an entrepreneur, you have content that maybe is a little bit more serious or content that maybe is a little bit more niche. Instagram is really good for you. What I like to leverage is not only distribution, but the thing that I find working the best is how can you continue communicating with your most hardcore fans? When you have, with your most intimate fans. Let's say you have 100,000 followers. It's pretty normal for a lot of creators to have 100,000 followers. Let's say out of those 100,000, you have 5,000 that are really dedicated, that would listen to every message that you put out, that would buy your stuff. That 5%, how do you communicate with them? Is it via email, via text message, or have you built some sort of place where you can keep them? We're here in Vegas. These people building these casinos have optimized this place to keep you around. They've made it sticky. They've made it interesting. They've made it fun. Why are people going to be somewhere that they don't enjoy? They're not. So you just suck at community building if you can't sustain a community, and that's okay. But you change it by always being forefront with your innovation, by always being transparent, by offering good experience, by caring, by always being focused on and having attention to detail. It's and by listening. It's a cumulative of a lot of things. But once again, if you have distribution, you can iterate on your community. But how many people come to Vegas and only come once? A lot of people. But then you have people that consistently come, and eventually people stop coming. Well, probably because they die.
Yeah.
So eventually every person churns, but the new traffic comes through the distribution. So if you have good distribution,
Focus on that. Yeah.
you're good to go. And then you have good quality buckets. And that what I mean by buckets is buckets that the money can come into, right? So if you don't have any sort of monetization stream, then, or any way to collect any sort of cash, any product, any sort of offer, then it's going to be really hard to scale. And if you're at the mercy of a sponsor or an ad, then you have no control over your community. So I think it's a combination of both. But back to your point, it's building a sticky community is key. But what is most important is to just have a brand.
Yeah.
Is for people to know you. And it's not about for the idea of everybody knowing you. It's the people that matter should know you. And if the right people know you, you're good.
And for content creation, how much of it, because I don't know if you're like a big fan of like talking direct to camera. I know we were talking about that off camera, but like what have you found is the most effective route? Because I know, for example, podcasts are high leverage because you could sit down for an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is, and get good back and forth dialogue and turn that into, like you said, an unlimited amount of clips. Whereas if you set up a camera and then you said something and you second guessed it, you have to re-record, in practicality. Have you found that like there's a good balance between the two? Or like, I guess in terms of content creation, how do you think about that?
So it depends on the type of creator that you are. I can easily see.
So you recommend people play to their strength?
Yeah. Play to the content that you enjoy making that you know is quality. So if you're not into business and you like wakeboarding or you like skateboarding, well, how can you leverage that to not only make more money but get more attention? Obviously, if you suck at skateboarding or you suck at wakeboarding or surfing,
Did you what's great growing up?
I not really good. I broke my wrist early on in a ramp, so I hung it up.
What sports did you play as a kid?
Soccer, football. We call it fútbol in Argentina, but we call it soccer here in the U.S.
Were you good?
I'm okay. A little bit of magic.
I know you play FIFA too.
Play FIFA, bro.
How often?
Once a month
ish.
Yeah, I play, but I like it, bro. I like it. I like FIFA. I like football. I like going to matches. I like the energy. What's special? Special sport.
What do you do to decompress? I know we're hanging out in Vegas, so I got a little bit a taste of that. But what do you do to decompress from managing all the shit you have going on, not just in business but investments, content? Like as a human, how do you mellow out from managing all those moving parts? It's a lot.
I like to sleep.
You sleep good?
I sleep good. Or I like to sleep and I like to travel.
How much do you sleep? Like, what's your?
I don't sleep much, normal 6 to 8 hours, but I'm intentional about how I sleep. When I sleep, I'm intentional about making sure that my environment is clean, making sure that my phone is off, making sure that, I'm not using my phone before bedtime, that I don't eat carbs at night. So I position myself to have a good night of rest, as opposed to if I'm not going to sleep, I'm not going to sleep throughout the entire night and I'm good to go. That's it. I'll just run it through. But I don't want to have poor quality sleep. Poor quality sleep to me ruins the next day. And it's all about setting yourself up for success.
Were you always disciplined with sleep, or was that something you learned?
Bro, how do you wake up when you wake up refreshed? It's amazing. There's routines and there's specific formats to having calculated results. You can wake up refreshed every single day. If you're waking up lethargic, tired, upset, cranky, your body aches, something's not wrong. Something's not right. Something's wrong. And you need to fix it. I have had employees that have told me, Luke, I need to leave. Like I'm quitting because I can't sleep. Imagine being able to go to work and not be able to sleep. You can't perform. It doesn't make any sense. So sleep, I love sleeping. It's what I do in my free time. And I like to travel.
Do you have a time you like to sleep usually, or?
It's normal. Whenever I'm tired, I go to sleep. At nighttime, I'm a normal guy.
I was going to say, I feel like you travel so much. You're in so many different time zones.
Yeah, I'm always in different time zones, but I don't do a ton of drugs and I don't do alcohol and I eat really healthy. So I like to manage my rotation. I travel through different time zones every couple weeks. So I need to make sure that I'm really tight on my discipline, because if not, I'd break down.
Were your disciplines something that kind of like naturally happened little by little, or did you have any events where you turned them around? Do you know what I mean?
I would say when I began hiring a lot of people, into my organization.
How many employees do you have now?
Like 148.
Mm.
Yeah. It's a lot of people.
Yeah.
I was with my HR team today, just going over
Yeah.
our the amount of people that we have, and between contractors and employees is 140 plus.
Yeah.
But as I began to meet my staff,
How's that payroll?
in person, yeah,
Yeah.
it's expensive.
Yeah.
When I began meeting my team in person, I flew down to Argentina. I have team members in Argentina. I have team members in Europe. I team members in the Philippines. I've met most of my team. I meet their spouse or I meet their kids. And then you're like, okay, this venture that I'm on, this business that we have, isn't just providing for you, it's also providing for all these other families. So now you have a sense of responsibility.
Right.
And when you own a business and you have employees, now you have responsibilities. But these responsibilities are self-induced. When you go into entrepreneurship, you should know what you're signing up for.
Right.
Long days, bad phone calls, employees that aren't happy,
Whatever it
dealing with
takes.
human emotions, whatever is necessary in order to make it. But when it's all said and done, there's also human beings.
Right.
So my sense of responsibility of saying, hey, I need to wake up and not just think about me when it comes to business is the fact that I have team members. And these team members are counting on me to perform, to create content, to continue studying, to continue leveling up. And ultimately, we all win together.
Do you still enjoy the way you create content? Because that's a big part of it too, is like for people to have scale and momentum, is like they actually have to enjoy what they're talking about. I think a lot of people start building a brand for the sake of building a brand. And I think that nuance matters. How does you keep it interesting? Obviously podcasts, like keep it interesting when you're filming, but like what in it keeps you hooked to it? Is it just the long-term leverage of it?
I think it's one of the highest leverage actions that a person can be doing nowadays. Building a personal brand that has the ability to be broadcasted to the internet.
Yeah.
The internet is really powerful as a means of distributing your message. I'm not perfect, but when you begin to watch my long form content and you neglect clips and things of this nature, you'll find good substance and good principles for a sound way of living, doing business, building relationships, and ultimately finding your fullest potential, which is the core of my message is don't settle for average. Focus on becoming extraordinary. Understand that your mind is to be mastered. And if you can't control it, it'll dictate your future. If you can't control the way that you think, if you can't control what you put into your mouth, your diet, if you can't control what you listen to, and ultimately you're going to end up in a situation where you're not living life by design. And nobody has taught people how to live life by design. We sat down with somebody yesterday and we were having a conversation, they had a child. Where I was like, hey, has anybody ever taught you how to be a father? And the reality is, no. Has anybody ever taught me how to be a CEO, how to become a good man? These things are out there. These truths are out there, but they need to be found. But a lot of people, they haven't been intentionally taught these things. So if you can spread a message and give some sort of guiding clues towards the next best way of living, then I think it's good enough content.
What do you think is the biggest misconception most people have about like what it takes to manage something at this scale?
That it's hard.
It's true or it's not true?
It's just intense. It's just not, it's not that it's hard. It's that it's hard at first.
Were you always intense? Because I noticed your attitude towards everything is like all in 100%.
Yeah.
Were you always like that or was that cultivated?
I'm all in. Yeah.
So you're all in or you're all out?
If you're going to do something, we've hung out over the last couple of days. Hopefully you've been able to see my personality. If I'm interested, I'm all in. If I'm not interested, you're just never going to see me interact with it.
But I mean more so when you started, because sometimes, it's one thing, because I'm sure how you were when you were, a kid in Argentina is very different than who you are today.
For sure.
So I'm always talking to the person who, because most people will never be in a high leverage position, right? Most people will have limitations to what they can do and create in terms of like, for example, a lot of people might hear this and go, well, I'm trying to build a personal brand, but I don't know what to talk about. I don't know who to hire. I don't know if I'm that good. I've never, made $1 zillion. So, I don't, they deal with all these limiting things that hold them back. So I'm just curious for me, like, what's the biggest misconception? Like, for example, the young version of you who's seen you killing it now, what would he think?
When I said that it's hard, I meant the misconception that people think that this is hard, I can't do it. If you already start with the wrong mindset, you're never going to succeed. When I started doing content, I said, I have a mission. I want to build this entrepreneur community. That was my intention for making content on the internet. So I didn't want to get clout. I didn't want to get famous. I didn't have validation from comments on the internet. None of these things were the reason why I was doing what I was doing. So now I'm building it. And once it's built, entrepreneur community, and it has the size that I want it to have, then I'll stop making content because my mission will be complete towards what I set out to do. If you don't have a reason to do something, then you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
If it's just money, how many people and creators have we seen make money and then they stop making content because they've made enough money? A lot. If your mission is just to make money, then sure, you can make money through content. And you can make a lot of money through content. But once again, it needs to be able to transcend just something that is material or something that is fleeting or that has emotional instability. You lose money and you become emotionally unstable. You make money, you become emotionally stable. These things dictate your emotions, which means they master you and that they're your God. So if you have a higher purpose, like empowering your community, leveling up, finding truth, these things that take many, many, many years to work on, then through that time, what you're going to develop is character. And that character is determined by a consistent set of actions. So once you've been doing podcasts for 6 years, it's ingrained. Like I listened to you ask questions. This is already a second nature to you. It wasn't the same way in 2018. You're probably stuttering, thinking about questions, probably nervous. Today, it's no longer the case. You're very mellow, very chill. That comes from the consistency of doing the same thing over an extended period of time and iterations that have now changed your personality and changed your character. So when you do things that are difficult, not hard, difficult, challenging things like a challenging puzzle, if I play an easy game, I get bored.
Yeah.
You don't like to play easy games that are in easy mode and always winning. No, you want a challenge. You want something that's going to require the ability to level up, something that's going to require your desire to think.
Hey guys, quick question. Have you been enjoying this video, but you're thinking to yourself, man, I love this content, but I want to learn how to grow my brand or my business? Well, if your answer is yes, you're not alone. In fact, millions of entrepreneurs deal with this exact same issue. And it's something that I've learned the answer to from interviewing 7, 8, and 9-figure entrepreneurs around the world. And this philosophy that solves all that is a concept called who, not how. Now, the who, not how philosophy states that anytime you're stuck on the hows to get to the next level in your life, your brand, or your business, that there's always a who to help you get there. And it's for this exact reason that I'm super excited to announce that I've officially launched our brand new Passionate Few community to help you do exactly that. And yes, it's 100% free. Join me and the thousands of other entrepreneurs that can help you make your life, your business, and your dreams a reality. With no further ado, let's get back to the video.
But where did your hunger come from?
I had nothing, bro.
Yeah, but a lot of people have nothing. What was different about your hunger?
I saw people that were not as smart as me, unfit, spiritually dead, crushing it in life. And I said, I can do the exact same thing as all of these people.
How old were you?
16 when I moved to the United States. Argentina, unfortunately, has a very broken mindset when it comes to self-development, when it comes to leveling up. Argentine people have a broken mindset when it comes to wealth. There is what's the word in Argentina? There's pride in being poor. You know, it's like, it's a good thing. You're a person of the field.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But that's just not me. I want to travel the world. I want to meet incredible people. If it wasn't for money and it wasn't for status, I wouldn't be where I am today. So once you're born, you get to choose the game you want to play. You get to choose the character you want to become. You get to choose the life that you want to live.
Did you have a role model that showed you this, or you just trial and errored it from the younger kid?
The Bible, man. The Bible teaches you all the truth that you need to know about the world. It teaches you how to think. It teaches you what to stay away from. It teaches you what to pursue. The Bible tells you that if you pursue truth and you seek it and you find it, it'll set you free. It tells you to stay away from women. It tells you to stay away from the things of the world. It tells you to stay away from the things that corrupt your soul, not because it's trying to take from you, but because it's trying to prevent you from doing things that are going to affect you and hurt you and break your communication connection with God. So if life is about pursuing and finding truth, why do we work? Why do you work 50, 60 years? Just to make it? My content is designed specifically for people to realize these things, for people to wake up, for people to have self-realization. You can't tell people the truth and then they believe it. They have to experience it. They have to go through it. We've had experiences together where it's like epiphanies hit you, and unless they hit you and unless you're able to perceive them, you're not going to believe them.
Right.
And people need to
experience.
They need to experience it.
Yeah.
So if you don't feel confident, do something that will create the scenario that will give you validation towards continuing to pursue that dream or pursuing that venture. If you want to become an entrepreneur, go try. If you want to make money, go try. Yeah, you're going to fail many times. But what do you want to do? Succeed at something easy that yields no result?
Yeah.
No, go fail at something hard. The worst that'll happen is the same thing that'll happen even if you live a great life. Nobody's going to remember you. You're still going to die.
Did you have any like pretty bad failures early on, or did you catch? Because I know you had some good success early on.
I had 2 big failures. Yeah.
What was the 2 worst failures?
I had 2 big failures in business and 1 big failure in investment.
What was the worst it ever got for you financially?
Well, in the 2018 bull run, I lost everything. So I went all the way up. My portfolio did 160x. It was a crazy bull run. And then I lost it all. Then I started saying, hey, I need to make more money and get into e-commerce. Built up my revenue stream. Decided to go on my own spiritual journey. Stopped all my businesses. All of those went to zero. We're doing about $1 million a month in revenue. So one of them was a self-induced hit. And then the other one was a complete liquidation by listening to people that didn't have my best financial interest in mind.
What prompted you to start those businesses?
I needed money to get back into crypto. So I made money in crypto and I said, this bull run's going to come back around.
How much did you start with in crypto?
I bought, I think, 3 Bitcoin, 2.5 Bitcoin at $588.
What was it?
2016?
2016.
Yeah. I always tell the story. I used to work at the restaurant when you get cash tips. I would go to Wells Fargo on the mobile kind of deposit at nighttime, deposit the cash, instant deposit into the checking account, would get home, get on Bitstamp, buy Bitcoin. That was my routine.
And you heard someone talking about it at the restaurant?
A waiter told me about Reminiscence of a Stock Operator, gave me a book on stocks, told me that he'd gotten into penny stocks and into biotech cheap stocks. So my first introduction was when Robinhood had just come out. It was easy to trade, and that led me to Bitcoin. Bitcoin to me just made sense. And it made sense to me because it was the only thing that hadn't yet succeeded in the digital space, which was money. So many other things had already translated. Communities,
social media,
commerce. A lot of things had already been mastered, but money, there wasn't a native currency of the internet that everybody agreed to had value. It's not that one is better than the other, that one is supreme. It's the fact that this store of value known as Bitcoin made sense because the internet needed money that was in and of itself decentralized. And when I realized that concept, I said, I'm either going to save in fiat or I'm just going to speculate and assume that other people are going to realize that this thing is as valuable as I think it is. And it turned out pretty well.
When you started doing it, did you invest in other coins as well?
It's funny.
Yeah.
The second coin I actually invested in is XRP. I get grilled sometimes by the XRP community. I mean, I was an XRP fan for the first 2 bull runs, but it's not that I don't love XRP or that I have anything against it. It's a simple fact that I don't think it's going to hit the price targets, the imaginary price targets that the conspiracy theorists have. And that's it. Over the last couple of years, there have been other opportunities that have been able to yield better returns. And I think now they're in a different situation. Last administration with Biden, they were a little bit off because they got hit with the lawsuit with the SEC. Now, I think they're lobbying a lot better. But once again, it's about highest leverage opportunity.
What about ETH?
I bought my first ETH. The lowest I bought ETH was between $80 to $100.
Yeah.
Market crash of 2020. I think it's 2020. I don't even know at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like $200 in the bull run of 2017. But once again, ETH has been nothing but a disaster over the last couple of years, and you have better competitors coming that have a lot more attention. And ultimately, this technology is about adoption, and you can only hold confidence so long before people just decide to run off. And it all comes down to adoption. And I just don't think Ethereum right now is doing what it's supposed to be doing. So people are jumping to Solana and looking for other alternatives.
Why do you think most people, like when they invest in crypto, don't kind of do as well as others? Like, for example, what makes your discernment so good, or better, I should say? What makes your discernment better than most at making, even meme coin or crypto plays?
There's 5 stages in crypto where you can get your information, or you can get your access, or where you can research.
Mm-hmm.
The first is the conception stage, which is your MITs, your Stanfords, your universities, where people come up with mathematical concepts, theories, the idea of blockchain. And then it goes to incubators, your Peter Thiel Foundation, things of this nature that incubate concepts of the future, 20, 10, 15 years in the past, to make sure that they're ready for the next technology.
Right.
Then you have your big VC firms, you have your big banks that do the big push to then get into retail. But before it gets into retail, it hits the news. So it's the big influencers, it's the television, and then finally it's retail. Retail always gets the last end of the information. Most of the people are retail. Your goal is to move over as much as possible, and that comes down to the network and the groups of people that you associate with and the people you hang out with. If you're at the universities, if you're hanging out at the think tanks, you're going to get access to different opportunities, understanding of innovations of the future, and you're going to get access to better deals. If you're buying something that's already on Binance, that's the last stop. It's not the first stop. It's the last stop.
Do you have people whose advice you trust, or do you usually trust your own discernment more than anything?
I listen to a lot of people, but once again, you take people's ideas and you
filter it through your own,
and you decide, is this a good play? Because at the end of the day,
what makes a good play to Luke Belmar?
risk reward ratio. You can lose a trade. And I'm not a trader. I like to invest. Trading stresses me out. I'm not a trader. I like to invest. I've always succeeded at investing. So when I buy Bitcoin, I'm holding it. When I buy Ethereum, I'm holding it. When I buy Solana, I'm holding it. When I buy Jupiter, I'm holding it. All these things I want to hold because there's a reason why I was convicted to buy it in the first place. I'm not trying to make money. I have money. I'm trying to grow that portfolio. So it's a little bit of a different situation because my income doesn't come from trading. If your income comes from trading,
you make different decisions.
You make different decisions. I can stomach a 30% portfolio swing because I know I'm going to ride it for the next 2-3 years. What's different?
Where was your first big financial home run early on?
In crypto?
No, in general.
E-commerce. Yeah.
So, but where was it like your life changed the first time? Was there a point in time where...
I would say early on, at that point, it would be when I started investing in crypto properly. It was the DeFi run of 2019.
Was there a story or a day where you were like, holy shit?
Yeah, of course. So there was this token known as PancakeSwap. And PancakeSwap was this DeFi platform on the Binance Smart Chain. And do you remember Clubhouse? The fad of Clubhouse. So Clubhouse was popular at the time. Before Spaces was on Twitter, creators would congregate there and converse. One time, CZ, the owner of Binance, was on a call, and I tuned in, and then the community had access to asking questions. And because I was aware that, he'd built the Binance Smart Chain, that DeFi was the narrative because of Uniswap and because of Ethereum, and because because CZ and the owner of Uniswap had a little bit of a fight on Twitter going back and forth, I asked him, hey, what do you know about PancakeSwap? I got the ability to ask him a question. And he kind of gave some clues as to his involvement or understanding that this project was legit, that it was out of a Doc's team that they interacted with. So he gave me confidence. So I said, okay, this coin is sitting at a $25 million market cap. Let me buy 1% supply for $250,000. At that time, they had some crazy yielding programs and things like that. People that are aware of crypto or native to the space don't know what it is.
You put 250K in.
250K, and I made about $5.5 million over the course of a year and a half on that specific play. Yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty nice.
Was that the first time that you were like, holy shit?
I mean, that's the play where I'm
life looked different?
Where I'm realizing this is going to happen more often. This is going to repeat itself because you're getting the ability to invest into real companies that generate real revenue without having to go through a middleman, without having to go through a bank, without having to go through the stock market. The business, now many of them are not legit. They're just leveraging, Ponzi's or scam coins or presidential coins we've been seeing recently, versus the ones that have real product, generate real revenue, and decide to tokenize their community. These products and these companies will begin to surface more and more. And I think that what I realized was this product that worked, this model will be repeated because the founders, the company made a lot of money. So somebody that's clever, somebody that's cheeky says, hey, if I'm going to raise money, instead of going to a bank, let me just raise it from my community through a token, or let me have a token that represents our community. So I realized that, leveraged that, got into DeFi, did extremely well last bull run. And what's your beginning of the journey?
What's your philosophy on taking profits? Changes?
It changes all the time. It changes depending on the cycle. It changes depending on your portfolio. It changes depending on what type of money you're using to invest. If you're utilizing money that you need to survive, then you should be taking profits all the time. If it's money that you're growing, well, the market's going to swing and the market is going to do different things. As long as you hold high conviction plays and you know what you own, and you know why you own it, not because your financial manager told you, not because a YouTuber said this and that. You're the one that's clicking the green button. And people ultimately have to assume that responsibility that, you can hear a lot of information, but ultimately you're the one that needs to take that information and decide what's the best play for you. So crypto seemed like the highest leverage opportunity at the time, and it turned out to be correct. E-commerce is the highest leverage opportunity on the internet to build a business.
So
crypto.
So you basically like are leveraging leverage on leverage. Like what I mean by that is like, for example, when you create capital to begin with, you create community on top of that. You now have the two mechanisms by which everything else can continue to scale and keep itself looping, and it just keeps on going.
Yeah, and you take your money and you multiply it. Just the idea of creating wealth, multiplying wealth, and then preserving wealth. And then the preservation part of wealth comes from that high-tier network of entrepreneurs. So in order to preserve wealth, you need to create alliances. And you create alliances and you buy assets, you build portfolios together. So now wealth preservation is about studying a new way of thinking. Creating wealth is a mindset. Multiplying wealth is a mindset, but keeping money is a completely different mindset.
Did you ever struggle with that?
Of course. I went bankrupt twice.
Twice?
Yeah. Of course. I mean, if you have $2 million and you go to 50 grand,
how did you do it twice in a short amount of time?
E-com. So with e-commerce, you go from drop shipping you become really secure in a specific product. You order too much inventory. If you order too much inventory, your money is stuck in that inventory. So you have no ability to scale. And if your inventory is stuck, you're KO'd. So what happened was my warehouse in China got flooded. So I had all my supply ruined. Who's going to pay for that? It's not insured.
Yeah.
I have to pay for that. Liquidated me.
How much was it?
It was like $250K.
Wow.
Yeah, $250K and stuff.
And you had to file bankruptcy?
Well, not bankruptcy. Just make more money.
Yeah. But you were saying that it would have been that bad. Twice, though.
Never bankruptcy. I mean, I don't think I've gotten to the point where I've been to zero, but I would say going from $2 million down to 80 or 40 or 50 is pretty much nothing.
Yeah.
But then you start it back again. It's just products, testing, repetition. It's happened to multiple people multiple times in e-com, specifically when it comes to payment processing holds. I've had PayPal hold up to $2 million of mine for a year and a half. Unbelievable. Payment processing holds, they're a bitch. And then supply chain issues. Both of these things are massive bottlenecks. They put people in a lot of financial strains many, many times.
What do you think is the biggest challenge with payment processors? Because so many brands, here's why I ask, because this is a side quest from an entrepreneurial perspective. You have a lot of these platforms that are trying in fintech to, you have, WAP, you have Stripe, PayPal. Everyone has these different issues, fees. What do you think is the ultimate payment processor? And how do you think that will ever exist? Or do you think that's what crypto's here to do?
So when I launched Ecom Society, I wrote 2 papers, 2 essays, specifically around what I found to be the 2 most important elements of e-commerce. One was product research, and the second one was payment processing.
Yes.
So me and one of my partners, we wrote a payment processing PDF. And this payment processing PDF, we probably can find it on the internet somewhere. It's probably already leaked. Find the product research one as well. But most people don't understand how payment processing works. They think that they're just entitled to process payments. You're not entitled to shit. You process payments under the guise that you're somebody that isn't high risk, that the product that you're selling isn't high risk, that your refund rate is pretty low, that your chargeback rate is good, that your supply chain and that your product isn't a scam. So today, more than ever, payment processing companies have to deal not only with their own regulation, but the regulation of, first of all, Amex,
Logistics,
Visa, MasterCard, but then you have banks and the bank regulations. And then on top of that, you have government regulations. I've been able to sit down with owners of banks. They say, hey, in order for me to even change the color of a button on my website, I need to file paperwork. There's a lot of regulation. So that translates down to us as merchants. That translates to us as sellers. So there's a set of rules that you need to follow. If you go to Stripe's terms and conditions, they literally say we can cancel and terminate your account at any time for any reason. Is that the type of partner you want? But why do you use Stripe? Well, because you haven't thought of a better way. That's why in Ecom Society, we literally created a portal with all of the best payment processors that we know, both in the US and in Europe, boutique, because it's all about access. So do you think that somebody that has access to the owners of Stripe get treated the same way as somebody that is just an irrelevant account?
Good point.
Do you think that that person will have their Stripe account shut down or their funds held? No, because they have trust. Just like a big payment processor like Stripe, which equals in retail Walmart, you could have a small bank or a small processor that equals your mom and dad pop shop or your local grocery store, where you can actually ask for things to be delivered and you can give recommendations, and there's a better relationship that can be built. Payment processing is the cornerstone of your business. If you don't have good payment processing, good checkout, you're screwed. If you're running high risk offers, high ticket offers, you need to have other vehicles to collect payment, whether it's crypto, whether it's wire, whether it's Zelle, things of this nature. Credit card is good, but ultimately the payment processor is what will determine your success in business, because if they hold your money, you're screwed. If they decide not to process, you're screwed. Let's say you make $1 million a year in revenue. Just in revenue. Let's say you have a 2.9% credit card fee. You could have a private processor give it to you for 1.9%, saving you 1%. 1% of $1 million is $10,000. That 1%, that difference is money in your pocket.
Right.
That's leverage, right? You need to be able to capitalize on that discrepancy. Most people in business, they leave so much money on the table because they don't form relationships with their partners. They don't form relationships with every vertical in business. Everything's so automated. Everything's so robotic that people forget that on the other side of the screen, there's actual humans that can solve their problems. If you just relate to them, go out, associate with them, make sure that they know that you exist, and build a bridge of trust.
And you have an A team to manage all this?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you off the podcast my payment processing strategy, because now when it gets to finance and stuff, it gets a little bit tricky. But yeah, I have my own financial team. I have my own investment team, and I have my investment portfolio, my family office, and collectively we kind of just play around.
How many assistants do you have?
So I have 2 travel assistants. I have my bodyguard that always travels with me. And then I have 2 virtual assistants. These 2 virtual assistants manage my schedule, manage my business meetings. And then the 2 in-person assistants are the ones that are handling the day-to-day operations of my life. So 5 in total. Yeah.
For you, what's the hardest part about managing it all? There's so much on your plate, dude. So many people and all that.
Recruiting. It's all about recruiting. You need
People.
Yeah, you need to hire people that you trust.
How do you quality control? Because I'm sure people DM you all the time, message you all the time, and I'm sure you have an HR team. But how do you what ends up being the best way to find people with trial and error? I know you mentioned kind of putting them through the experience and
trial and error and
trial by fire.
trial by fire. I'll probably get in trouble for this. Did I tell you the story of so I was testing a new assistant, and we end up flying to Singapore with my team. And I give them 2 rules, specifically because of how Singapore works and the time and the event. And I gave these 2 rules because after conversing with this new assistant, I realized that he liked to drink. So I said 2 rules.
Yep.
No drinking and no sleeping around for the next week. Those are the 2 rules. While we're in Singapore, don't do it. So I tell my assistant who works for me, I said, take him to the bar. See if he drinks, right? Like you would test him, be homies with him. They take shots together. All right, perfect.
Oh, they took shots. Yeah,
They took shots together. So I already knew, hey, I can't trust this kid because whatever it is. And then we just up the game. Take him to the red light district.
Mm-hmm.
I won't continue the story. It gets crazy.
But yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So he didn't pass the test. Long story short, hired people of confidence. If I have a maid, I'll leave cash on the table to see if the cash is there. At a certain level, you need people that you can trust. That's why a lot of people hire people from their childhood, people that they know or knew when they had nothing or were just coming up. And then 2, understand that as a boss, as an owner, your job is not to do things. Your job is to recruit. Your job is to hire. Your job is to vet. And your job is to have the architect perspective. The architect isn't the one that is out here figuring out the pipes and figuring out the electrical cords. No, they're designing, they're observing, they're making sure that everything is in accordance to plan. Life by design. And life by design also means that other people need to operate in their respective roles with peace of mind that they're not going to backstab you, that they're actually competent enough to follow through with the task. It's not just about being good, because loyalty and trust and confidence from a weak person that's incapable doesn't mean much.
Yeah.
You need confidence and trust from somebody that's capable and somebody that's quality controlled and tested. And then finally, you need to build fail-proof systems. You need to create systems where people don't have to think. My life is SOP'd. What I need, what I want, what I eat, everything is written down in a very simple way so that if any assistant always comes, they know what to do. So there should be basic manuals on how you operate, what you like, what you enjoy, that people can facilitate and help you with. You don't need a lot, but the first thing you need in business is a virtual assistant. Somebody that checks your emails, schedules your calls, manages your spam. Very basic things that create space to think, space to innovate, space to brainstorm. A lot of people are always running. They're always on the hamster wheel. So they never create the opportunity to stop and change directions if they have to. And you can't stop. What you can do is hire people and train people to do things on your behalf and do it in a way, once again, it goes back to community that incentivizes them, because you can't build an external community if the internal community, aka your business and your team, is dysfunctional. It all starts with the unit that is internal. So I work with my own team. We have meetings every single week. We always get together. We dine together. We eat together. We go and travel together, because the quality of the bond of my internal relationships will dictate how we create products and how we do business and serve our customers.
Effects, yeah.
That's correct.
That's the hardest part, I feel like. Finding a core team you trust. And that's just iterative through time a lot of the time. Like the core team.
The core team iterates,
Yeah.
but it only improves. So just like in a long-term relationship, the goal is compounding effect. If I have an employee that I pay $80,000 or $100,000 a year, I'm not just paying for their time. I understand, and sometimes because many times I overpay my employees, I'm investing in their future. I would like to be able to reap the rewards alongside them of the level up, of the experience, of becoming a better person. Because if I'm investing into you, I want to be able to grow with you as well.
Yeah.
So instead of dating a new person every 6 months,
That's a lot of energy though, right? All
no,
the people
in
you
fact,
have.
no, because well, that comes from the idea that you have to micromanage and govern every aspect of the business. You have the right operators, you have the right managers, and then you have the workers, the people that manage the task, the people that supervise the task, and then the people that you interact with, that you delegate things to at a higher level. At that, and I have a couple departments. So I have my media team. My media team is comprised of production and post-production. I have my human resources, so that manages people. I have my investment firm, so that has a couple analysts and a couple recruiters that go out and look for investment opportunities and tickets that we can invest in. And then I mentioned our media team. I have my distribution team. My distribution team is huge, 70, 80 people, 8 managers. And then I have my customer service and community team.
How long do you
That's how it's bridged.
How long do you see yourself running this? Or do you see yourself one day just building so much enterprise value, having a liquidity event, keeping your investments, and then kind of sailing off to the sunset, grabbing a farm?
I'm already there, bro.
Yeah.
I'm already there. I'm already plotting with my community to have this last season of business. I think, as you said, there's new goals and new things. I don't always want to be doing business. I don't always want to be looking at charts. I don't always want to be, checking P&Ls and balance sheets. I want to do other things in life, like have a farm, potentially travel to new places around the world. And that requires time.
Do you see yourself creating content as well?
For sure. I mean, I like content. I like creating content, and I like sharing content, and most people appreciate it. For the bigger part of the internet has appreciated the net positive outcome of my content. But I do see myself eventually in some way, shape, or form living a different type of life, simply because I like change. I'm a person that thrives in change and a person that thrives in controlled chaos. So being able to create new scenarios where you remove yourself from the internet might be cool.
What is it about the chaos you enjoy?
The unpredictability and
because there's so much routine in business.
Correct. Well, I intentionally create routine for my staff so that I don't have to be in a routine. I have the privilege to live a life where I can do what I want to do.
Right.
Which means I want my life to be exciting. I don't know where I'm going next week, right? So my hotel, right? We're here in the hotel. I check out tomorrow. I don't have a flight anywhere. I don't know where I'm going. Maybe I go to maybe I go to LA. Maybe I go back to Miami. Who knows? 2 weeks from now, I'm going to South Africa. I booked the tickets yesterday morning. Just going to go DJ with some friends. After that, who knows, right? If I had an office, if I had these things, which I can, and I would make more money, and that's the lifestyle of many, and that's cool. It's not for me right now. I wouldn't be able to do these things.
So how do you manage the chaos of travel all the time while running the businesses, relationships? How do you manage all that?
I mean, relationships specifically, when you're in a relationship, you need to understand that priorities change. Sometimes business is the priority. Sometimes your girl is the priority. I've had to sit down and tell my girl, hey, right now I have to focus on work. I need to go make money. This lifestyle that you want requires sacrifice. I have to go do. Right now, you are not the priority. The priority is the business. Sometimes the business needs to stop so that I can go take care of my health. My health becomes the priority. My body's in check, but I'm feeling a little bit anxious. The priority becomes fixing my mindset. So it's about creating a life of stability and a life of always understanding that things change. Yes, your spouse is important. Yes, if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to have to sacrifice time with your family, time with your kids, time with your wife, if you want to, in order to continue to grow. It's not required, but you can't have everything. So I sat down. The seasons, bro. I sat down with my girl and I said, hey, if we grind this out for a couple years, then we don't have to semi-grind for 40 years. I just want to go all in and then enjoy the rest of my life. So for the next couple years, my priority is going to be self-development. My priority is going to be making money. My priority is going to be providing. And you're going to do the same thing. You're going to level up. You're going to enjoy life. And you get to do the things that you like, and we'll do them together. Relationships work when you have a common purpose. Most people don't have a common purpose. Unfortunately, we live in a society that has been so fucked by the government and so fucked by the banks that most people live a slavish life. And what do I mean by this? Most couples wake up 7, 8 in the morning, they get dressed, they go two completely different directions to do two completely different things for most of the day. They get tired emotionally, tired physically, tired mentally. They get a paycheck to come and provide, but then they come back home, they're tired. The wife has to cook. She still has to look good for the man. She still has to take care of the kids. It's a lot, dude. Right. The husband has to pay the bills. He has to chill out. He has to listen to his wife's emotional situation and deal with those things. So there's a very heavy dynamic that doesn't create, once again, space for the relationship to thrive because there's no common purpose. If you have the ability for your wife to stay at home, for your wife to take care of the family, do that. If she wants to work, so be it. She can work. But the truth is, your wife or your spouse or your partner, the only way that you're going to grow and get to know this person is if you have a common purpose and if you spend time together.
Yeah.
If you're away from each other 80% of the day, it's very hard. And I think that in relationships, it's about expectations. So if you go into a relationship expecting that this person owes you 24 hours a day, owes you a text message response within 60 minutes, then the expectation already creates stress. It already creates a relationship with where things are too demanding. Before being with somebody, I have to be with myself. I'm an individual. So I have missions to accomplish. You have things that you have to accomplish that ultimately will impact your family, that will impact the people that you support. So the expectation when I converse with my spouse, when I converse with different people that either are married or engaged or have a girlfriend, and you're talking to your partner, I was talking to my partner and I said, like, in a very simple way, right now, you can't be my priority. It's not that I don't want you to be my priority. I wish. You just can't. And if you understand that, then when the situation arises where you feel like you're not the priority, remember that we had this agreement.
Yes, exactly.
So are you okay with this? If not, I'll go work the 9 to 5, but just know that I will be unhappy. Like, you can be happy. I'll be home. We'll watch Hulu. We'll watch Netflix. We'll hang out. We'll cuddle. But it'll be in that 1-bedroom apartment and it'll be a shitty life.
Yeah.
Like, if that's what you want, like, that's cool for me. I just don't want that, but I'll do it for you. Or you trust me.
Dude, you're so much by design. I love it. It's like you spend so much time thinking about systems. Is that the majority of what you spend your time doing?
I love to create space to observe and to evaluate what the best possible decisions one can make. It's not about making a ton of... They come to you through, they would come to more people more obviously if they just stopped. People don't stop. People are always on autopilot. People react. Instead of being proactive, they're reactive. I want to control every situation and every environment and predict things that are going to happen so that when things happen, it's like taking an umbrella out. Are you smart because you have an umbrella? No, you just said, hey, there's a chance that it's going to rain. Hey, there's a chance I'm going to need money, so I'm going to go make it. Is it hard? Yeah, who gives a fuck? You just have to do it. So the objective isn't to be always thinking, isn't to always be doing. It's about creating space for what is necessary. Sometimes you need to create space to work out. Sometimes you need to create space to think. Sometimes it's about a life of balance. Everything is by design. Everything is by intention. Whatever you read, whatever you eat, whatever you listen to, who you associate with, what you work on, what's your purpose, how you talk to yourself. Everything is an ingredient that culminates in who you are as a person. And all of it is in your control. That's why, I love talking about business. I also like talking about, what matters to me, which is how can somebody develop into the best version of them? We carry a lot of baggage. We carry a lot of damage. We carry a lot of trauma. And unless we address these things that torment our mind, we're never going to be free from them. You can run from things, but you can't hide from them.
Did you ever do therapy?
I've never done therapy.
Yeah.
I've done mushrooms.
Alternatives. Yeah.
And the psychedelic mushrooms have changed my life. When I first took mushrooms, I weighed almost 200 pounds. Had a spiritual journey with psilocybin for many months. And it definitely changed the way that I think about the world.
What's the biggest difference between then and now? I'm sure there's a lot. Core of it. What was the shift?
That I create my reality.
And before, what was it?
That I was a byproduct of other people's decisions and that I was living at the mercy of other people. And then it hit me and I was like, the reason I'm unhealthy is because I chose to eat the wrong food. The reason I don't have money is because I didn't go out and do the things that people that have money do. Everything was about self-reflection and self-accountability. And what it did, because this is what psilocybin does, is it creates new neural pathways in the brain, which means new ways for information to be processed. It just changed my mindset. And I began to think that I can do things. It's possible. It's probable. I just have to follow the right formula. If you want a specific outcome, you just follow a set of ingredients and a set of instructions. And ultimately, it might not be perfect, but you might get a similar result.
And so, but for you, dude, it's interesting because you say it so, poetically, but a lot of people, entrepreneurs in general, is like that a lot of them struggle with the how, right? How to execute. For you, where does your discernment come from? Because I would say you're pretty sharp. Like even just being with you a couple of days, where does that mental acuity come from? Because I'm sure you'd admit you're pretty sharp compared to most in certain areas. You're very on point. I'm sure in other areas, we all have strengths and weaknesses. But for you, where does that mental acuity come from? Where does that edge come from? Where's that hunger come from?
Having a student's mind. Always understanding that there's a high likelihood that I'm wrong. I laugh at myself a lot for being wrong all the time. I had to humble myself and accept the fact that my life being shit was because my mindset and the information that I had were garbage. And most people want to solve the problems in their life with the same information that gave them the problems. So it's practical. Feed yourself different thoughts. Put yourself in different rooms. Read different books. Listen to different music. You have to feed yourself different things. Hunger, right? Do you hunger for things? Or people have cravings. If you never started eating candy, you would never crave for it. You only crave for something that you've been able to build a habit or that you've been able to indulge in or that you've been able to build some sort of pattern around.
Yeah, neural reference, yeah.
People go to the gym for years on end. They don't go to the gym for 4 days. They freak out, right? It looks like they're insane. They need to go to the gym. They need to de-stress. They need to work out because they've created those positive patterns. We are creatures of patterns. We are creatures that are very much oriented by our emotions, and we're guided by the things that we want to do. And we try to shun away from the things that we don't want to do. So what we need to do is just change the things that we enjoy. And you change those things by exposing yourself to positive environments, by exposing yourself to quality food, to people that are positive. If you're hanging out around negative crowds, how do you expect to have a good mindset? It can't happen because you haven't created the necessary groundwork for the seed to flourish.
So you curate as much of every environment as humanly possible.
The how is very simple. Choose what information you're feeding to yourself. Information isn't just through the ears and it's not just reading. Information can be the people that you hang out with, the food that you eat, the thoughts that you have. All of these things is information that is dictating how you operate. And if you don't control these things and put them towards positivity, aka your ability to have an edge towards a better life as opposed to an edge towards a worse life, that's all it is. It's positioning, it's framing. And it's understanding that what you have to do in life is ride the wave of success.
Ride the wave, don't fight the current. Yeah.
Yes, you ride the wave, but you can only catch it if you position yourself the correct way, and you position yourself through intent.
By being prepared.
Yeah.
Was fitness always an integral role for you once you made the shift? I know you said you were overweight and then
Mobility.
down.
Mobility is, I think, that was the biggest thing for me. I don't think the gym was the big solution for me. It was feeling flexible in my own body, the ability to touch my toes, the ability to, be flexible, the ability to run. And the more you grow, the more you become sedentary and you adapt to a lifestyle that is slow. That's why I love to travel. It's all about fast speed, mobility, quick.
And it also probably feeds the creativity with decision making. Sure. You have so much going on that you almost need to like solve this business problem in Argentina. You know what I mean? Or think through this thing in Brazil, or like, I get the subtlety of that, but also the nuance of it. I guess for me, it's like the fact that you're doing it so frequently, I wonder how you sustain it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you sustain it by having a healthy lifestyle. You're never going to see me go out and party at a club. Rare if at all. I have to be forced to go. You never see me drink alcohol. You're rarely, if at all, maybe by misfortune, eat high fructose corn syrup or processed sugars, carbs at night, seed oils, all these things that are intentionally designed to hold you down and harm you, I stay away from. So I tried to optimize. You'd be surprised. You see somebody like Cristiano Ronaldo, now at 40 years of age, shredded, competing with people that are half his age, strong, ripped. Consistency, good habits, good patterns, staying away from drugs, staying away from alcohol, staying away from bad things. You can actually have a lot more stamina and momentum than you think.
Do you think for you there's like ways you enhance it? I don't know about Adderall or tea. I already know you obviously probably don't do those things, but for you, is there any things you try or any things you do to supplement your focus day to day or your energy day to day?
I think it all starts once again, with how you go to sleep.
Right.
Your day only starts in accordance to how you finish it. So if it's shitty, cupcakes at night, donuts, coffee at 2 a.m, you're not going to wake up well. It's fine. If that's what you want to do, that's okay. So your day first starts with preparation, how you prepare yourself the night before. When you wake up, what is the most important thing to do? Oxygenate the brain, clean up, hydrate, move.
Systems,
Everything. 15-minute walk in the morning, chlorophyll, salt water, hydrate properly, clean, out the door, get some sun. Doesn't take you 2 hours, but what it does is it creates space. It creates my ability to move. It gives me my nutrition. It gives me my sun. Then I can go back and I begin to work. It's not very long. It takes me about 30, 40 minutes. I'm very fast. I'm very efficient, but I get to do things that I enjoy. And I create these small little habits that create kind of a structure in my life, even if there's chaos. I'll go on a walk any city that I'm in. I can stretch for 15 minutes anywhere that I go. You saw me here in the back. We shipped in spring water. So I drink my spring water in the morning. So my routine is very simple. It's something I can sustain. A lot of people become overly ambitious. And they add 19 things to their to-do list. I'm going to master this year. It's like, but you haven't mastered the basics. I'm still mastering the basics, bro.
So like we hear a lot about your strengths. Like what are the things you actually struggle with? Because a lot of people see you give advice and have answers. What are the things that you find yourself kind of present day struggling with, dealing with, wrestling with?
There's a couple things. The first thing is training people. Patience is the ultimate trait of a leader. Your ability to sit down with your people and take your time to explain the mission that you're trying to accomplish. Most leaders, most CEOs, most business owners, they don't take the time because you're busy. You want people to solve your problems. But one of my biggest hurdles in business has been to sit down with my people and to train them the right way. Abraham Lincoln famously said that if I had 6 hours to chop down a tree, I would spend the first 5 sharpening the axe. So many companies have a terrible onboarding system to new hires. They don't train their people. They don't invest in their people. They don't care about them. So once I realized that that was negative, what I had to do was begin to create incentives for people to thrive outside of me having to police them. And this comes from creating a vision map for how people can grow and scale inside of the organization, something to look forward to. That's the first thing. The second thing is consistency. As a person that's dynamic, as a person that likes to create, the ability to hold onto one dream, one vision, one thought for an extended period of time becomes challenging. There's different types of entrepreneurs. There's entrepreneurs that thrive at launching companies, other entrepreneurs that are good at operating companies or scaling companies, exiting companies. Different people have different skills. I'm really good at launches. I'm really good at hype. I'm really good at marketing. I'm really good at build up. But you need operators to sustain the business long term, the day-to-day operations.
Correct.
But you can't do it out of a place that is not natural to you. So I was doing a lot of the operations in my company for a lot of 2023. 2024, I realized that I need to bring operators and people that maybe didn't do things like I wanted. They didn't do things as good as I wanted. Not as good as me, as good as I wanted. But they were good enough and I could trust them. And understanding that I just had to ship product.
Yeah, that's hard, especially when you're a
products.
quality controller.
For sure.
Because I interviewed John Paul DeJoria from Patron Tequila and Paul Mitchell Shampoo and Conditioner. This guy runs not one, but two multi-billion-dollar companies. I asked him, what's the biggest challenge? And he goes, Omar, the hardest thing is people. He goes, think about Walmart, right? Like they built this huge multi-billion-dollar company. And most of the employees there, not a lot of barriers to entry. You know what I mean? And so it's like, how do you build something massive that the average person can fulfill on? Because if it's so dependent on every person being at your level of quality or standard, you're going to lose your mind quality controlling, jump off a cliff.
For sure.
Especially when you're as attention to detailed as yourself. So letting go of that control, that's kind of what you mean?
Yeah, letting go of the control and allowing other people to do their job. And
If that compromises the quality of the product at launch.
you made a wrong hire.
But that won't stop you from launching.
Well, it depends. Is the mistake a $300,000 mistake, or is it a mistake that isn't as big as the salary that they're getting? It's all the opportunity cost. You know, I had a finance girl send $20,000 to a wrong crypto address, but she does a lot of great work throughout the year. So what, do I just terminate her because of 20 grand? But the ROI of her labor, the ROI of her efforts, and the trust that we have that she can move money, whatever, is bigger than the 20K.
Plus the accountability.
And it's the trust.
Future, yeah.
It's the trust. So you build into that trust and you understand that people can learn skills. People can get better. People can't learn how to be good people.
Yeah.
People can't learn how to be faithful and loyal. You find that and then you train the rest. And then you're patient because people are still learning.
So you hire for character.
Yes, first. Why would I hire for anything else if business is like war, or if it's resembled like war? Oftentimes people read The Art of War by Sun Tzu, and a lot of these principles translate into business. Why would I have somebody that when shit gets tough, when the enemy is at the door, they just turn around and run? Or let alone, even worse, go and work or fight for the enemy? I've had that. I've had partners go and partner with the enemy. I've had employees go and work for competitors. Why? My inability to find people that were aligned to my mission, vision, and values. So integrity, loyalty is the key. And then from there, you can train everything else.
Have you had any like major betrayals that like forced you to like level up or be even tighter on security, or
For sure.
how you evaluate human interaction?
Yeah, for sure. Security threats, definitely.
Yeah.
Bad business partners.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all of it, bro. The natural of being a video game character.
Dude.
Playing the game.
Okay, so when you talk about that, you talk about this concept called the law of gravitas. Can you talk about that for the audience who's never heard about the law of gravitas and being the video game character of self-mastery that you're now living in?
So the law of gravitas dictates that a bigger form of mass, or a bigger form of energy, will bring into its orbit or attract into its orbit, into its gravitational pull, smaller forms of energy, smaller forms of mass. That's why I like to concentrate the energy. I like to bring entrepreneurs together, employees together, because what can be accomplished, in a very short period of time by yourself can be done in milliseconds with a group of people. What can take you as an individual years, when you concentrate the energy, right? You attract things unto yourself. So a lot of people working together, they have the ability to generate and attract unto themselves $1 billion business or opportunity, more so than somebody by themselves doing it. So the law of gravitas is about concentrating the energy, bringing people together, associating towards a specific common goal or purpose, and attracting those things that naturally gravitate towards that concentration of energy. Pretty cool concept.
Dude, it's amazing. And not only that, you're only 29?
Yes.
So you've done quite a bit in your 20s. My last question for you here is, as you look into the future of, what you want to do in life and business with NFT and crypto, maybe we'll have a bonus question about NFT and crypto I have to ask.
Let's do it.
But what do you, when Luke Belmar is dead gone, nothing but a pile of dust, what do you hope your body of work and business leaves behind?
Just that people that I've interacted with had a good interaction. That I was a positive influence to them, not a negative one. And that I was a beacon for people finding truth and not lies. So that's good enough. I don't care to be remembered. I don't care to have my name on any billboards or signs, or none of those things matter. Of the greatest innovations of our time, most people don't remember who made them. Julius Caesar, one of the greatest emperors of Rome, his name's been relegated to a salad. So, name, status, legacy don't really mean much for me. To me, it's about here right now with you, having a good conversation, leveling up, and being able to replicate that in the present moment with every person that I interact with.
So my bonus question, and I appreciate you sharing that. My bonus question for you is, when it comes to so much, like I remember yesterday, so much of what you do, like I was asking you logical questions, and I remember you talking about the energy. How much of the energy informs what you do in life and business and is who you are in terms of a guiding principle? Here's what I mean. A lot of people, will probably look at what you've done and they look for logical answers, right? They hear these interesting, fascinating things about the brand or the business, but a lot of them struggle about the actual momentum, the umph, sometimes in ascension, like in the position you're in, it's so far removed from maybe the masses who are still trying to get the leg up and maybe transform. So I know it's a loaded question, but I guess how much of it would you recommend people to get in an energy of receiving and downloading wisdom to make their life work? Because I feel like it's probably not the type of thing that's disconnected from you doing well in one area of business or another, from also the mastery of what you eat and who you are and what you put in your mind. Does that make sense? How much of it is energy, and on a practical level, how can people apply that to start making their life work? Very loaded question. But I wanted to inform it because I know there's people out there that have logical questions about one part of it, but I feel like you have an answer for you that informs so many parts of it.
Yes. Two things. One, how you do the small things is how you do the big things. Because the small things, just like the big things, showcase your character. They showcase your nature. They showcase who you are. Not who you are in front of others, who you are by yourself, in private, when the doors are closed. So having an understanding of how to improve that individual is important. Most people settle for average. They settle for bad decisions. They settle for self-sabotage. And a lot of it comes from, which is the second part, not listening to God. God is the answer to everything. He's the answer to a successful marriage, a successful business, a healthy body, a healthy mind. God is the answer to everything. When was the last time you asked God for financial advice? I know that sounds crazy to many people. When was the last time you asked God for advice in your marriage? Yeah, you ask God to heal certain parts of your life, but not everything. You ask him for advice in certain things, but you neglect them in other things. I want to listen to God. And that is the guiding principle that allows you to live in flow, because you live in a state of obedience. At least I try to. Not perfect, very far from it. But if you understand your nature and then you ask God to bless you, ask God to guide you, he will. Why would you fight the creator of the universe?
So you don't get stuck. You feel like your connection with God keeps answers flowing to you.
When I get stuck, it's because I'm usually doing something wrong.
And so you just fix that behavior and you get unstuck.
I ask God to show me what I need to fix, which is the truth. And if you obey the truth, your life improves. If you disobey the truth that God tells you, you will continue to suffer, because God is telling you the truth so that you can live a blessed life, not for you to live in suffering, because he loves you. And the objective is for you to live a good life. And a good life is based on his design, not on your design, not on how you want to live. There's rules to the game. You have to follow the rules of the game. And if you follow the rules of the game, you live a good life. If you don't follow the rules of the game, then the game plays against you. And that's why most people feel like they're not advancing in life, because they're not following God. They're following their own wisdom, their own desires, their own thoughts, their own ambitions. They've never even considered God in their life. Yet God is the one that's given them everything. And unless you give God everything and are willing to lay everything down to follow him, to love him, to work for him, then he's not going to bless you. And that's a promise.
To that point, I heard something beautiful. It said, see what God sees. So much of the time we're so focused on our agenda and what we want and what we think and what we think ought be the case. We forget to see what God sees. And in the grander picture, it recontextualizes to be like, holy shit, maybe that needed to happen for XYZ reason, or maybe that needed to happen for me to, have clarity in this area or whatever. Yeah.
And the question is, what does God see? God sees us and he loves us. So he tells us the truth. And we are supposed to act and do unto others as God has done unto us. So if God has loved us and God has forgiven us and God has shown us the truth, we do the same to others. That's what God sees. God sees us and he sees shortcomings. He sees failed humans. He sees sin nature. But then on top of all of that, he sees Jesus.
So for you, it's all about heaven. This is game you're just playing for sport.
This is the Matrix, bro.
Yeah.
That's why we're glitches in the Matrix. Good podcast, my friend. It's been a phenomenal time.
I appreciate you, Luke. Thanks so much for being on, brother. I know you went all over the place, but glad to make it happen.
Hashtag undeniable in the comment section if you want to become an undeniable person, that when somebody looks at you, that they can see that you are who you say you are. It's the best way to live.
My man. And where can people find you if they want to connect with you more?
At Luke Belmar on all social media platforms, or interact with one of my videos, and then you'll be stuck in the algo forever.
Perfect. And then final bonus question. What's your NFT meme coin predictions for 2025?
Pudgy Penguins NFT continues to become and remain the #1 NFT Web3 project in the world. It's a multi-billion-dollar market cap. It's phenomenal. And Bitcoin going to $150,000 to $175,000 2025. Bull runs back. Stay tuned.
Take care, guys. Till next time, live strong, live with passion, and go make those dreams a reality. Thanks so much, Luke. Appreciate it. Brother.